Calum, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed for doing this.
No worries.
Let's go back to your childhood to begin with.
Yeah.
Your dad was in and out of your childhood, but what are your memories of him when you were growing up?
So, I mean, I didn't really know much of my dad or knew about the situations he was dealing with until my teenage years, until I was probably 15, 16 years old. My younger years are good memories of my dad and I, in Southend on Hermosa Beach where he had his besties bar, him coming down to the football pitch that was in Malibu and all my friends being thrilled to meet my dad, but then he would show up and he would be in a full shell suit with a scraggly beard. And people would be like, wait, this is George Best the legend? And I'd be like, I swear it is,
Alcohol was always there.
I would come over at 15 and I'd be thrilled to see him. He'd be at the airport, I'd run, Dad, how are you? Straight to the Feeney pub, you know what I mean? And we would go straight to the Feeney and I would spend my next 2 weeks in the Feeney, you know what I mean? And the craziest thing about my dad is that I'd get to the Feeney and everyone would be like, oh my God, your dad's been talking about you so long, he's been so excited to see you, he's thrilled to bits. And I'd get here and my dad would go on a bender.
When he was out drinking and a mess and incoherent, were people afraid of him, afraid to stop him? And in fact, did they encourage him to keep drinking?
I don't think they were afraid. I think they loved it. That is the culture we live in here, especially in the UK. People are going, let's have a drink, bestie, drink this, drink that. And he probably loved it. I know he liked to sometimes sit by himself, but overall, he could walk in anywhere and everybody wanted to buy him a drink. And you think to yourself, that's quite cool because there's so much respect and accolade, but at the same time, when you're dealing with a person that's alcohol dependent, that's never gonna help.
His drinking obviously drove him to have a liver transplant as well.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop him. That must have been galling to see.
I showed up at the hospital for him to have this liver transplant and I looked at him and he looked at me and we had a moment and I was like, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Like I've been searching for this moment of this clarity that me and my dad are about to have. And he was like, bestie, it's gonna be different. And you think to yourself, this is where it's all gonna change. And I thought this is going to be the beginning of a new chapter. This is it, he's got a whole nother second life he could live. And that's the things I'm thinking of, the better for him, you know what I mean? Months later, he'd stayed sober the whole time. We went away on holiday together. We went to Corfu, Greece, first time we'd ever been to holiday. He invited me, thrilled to bits with this, you know what I mean? We get there and I think a few days into it, I caught him back on the drink.
When he died, what was your view of alcohol then?
I was lost, man, and I was in such a dark place. It was for me the hope and dreams of all my youth. It was my, everything. Lost him, I lost all hope. It was screw everybody, you know what I mean? And I literally was the case. I went out and I just forgot about everything, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, people deal with it different. That's just my experience. But I got through it by getting wasted, you know what I mean? And when I look back in hindsight, I think to myself, right, so my dad probably enjoyed a few drinks, lost his mom, sent him on a bender. I lost my dad, sent me on a bender. So you can see how that nasty thing can continue, you know what I mean? So when I lost him, I was just depressed, and I lived in London. I had no family around. I didn't talk to my dad's side of the family. My mom was in the States, but who welcomed me in with open arms? The bar owners, dude, and I was happy to go. I was out every night drinking. That went on for a few years. Luckily, I fought through that, and I like to think I've come out on top the past 5-6 years of my life. I'm the healthiest I've ever been, you know what I mean? My work's good, my mind's good, my thing's good, but it got dark.
While it's difficult for people to necessarily relate to your own dad's situation and what he achieved, there'll be plenty of people, in fact there are millions of people who've been children of alcoholics, which they can relate to your story.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you're in the thick of that? Do you blame yourself in some ways for their behavior with alcohol?
God, man, there's so many thoughts and processes that go through your head, and you don't figure them out until you get a bit older. It's because at a young age, you're going, what do I do? How do I help? What have I done wrong? Why me? Why is he choosing the booze over me? Anger, frustration, the whole lot, you know what I mean? But I found out in time over experiences that all you can really do is be there to support. You can give them angles, you can give them roads in the right direction, but if the illness, the demon has that much of a grasp, it's hard, man. You know what I mean? You tell them no, they drug you out of their life. You know what I mean? I'm wanting kids or relatives or anybody to look at a situation and go, oh, we can relate to that, and know that there's places out there that I didn't know about that you can call, you can find help, you can maybe say, Dad, Mom, have a look at that, and so it's a tough battle, you know what I mean? It's a hard one to figure out what to do when you have a relative that's alcohol dependent. But there is help, there are places to call, there are people to talk to, and talking, I think, is key.
Do you drink more when you're in the UK as opposed to when you're maybe back in the States or visiting friends elsewhere in the world?
I think most will agree that the UK is a pretty massive drinking culture. You know what I mean? As from as long as I can remember, everybody I knew drank. You know, I came over here at 15 and I was drinking. I couldn't get away with that in the States. I'm sure you can somehow, but I remember being 15 with my dad going to the bar and thinking it was quite cool to order a drink. You know, I got a big pina colada with a straw and a pineapple, and I sat with him and he said, "You're not sitting with me with that drink." You know what I mean?
Well, in which case, do you think we should then raise the buying age for alcohol to 21, as it is in many of the states?
I mean, it's an option. You know, I think here it's easy to get. You know, it's cheap.
Too easy?
Possibly. You know,
too cheap?
Maybe. You know, I think these are things people need to look at, and I don't want to be anybody's buzzkill. You know, but people just need to keep it in check because it can easily get out of hand, and I've experienced it firsthand. You can obviously grow up as a young man. It's standard to have your standard drinking contest. You know what I mean? We've all been there. We all went to college or grew up at a young age and enjoyed a drink, and I still do. But you take it to the extremes is just stupid.
And it would be rude not to mention, you've got a lot more hair everywhere these days.
Yeah, full-on beard. I got myself a film roll. I'm filming a film at the moment, so I've got this big old thing on my face. But a lot of people say it reminds them of my dad, so I'm flattered by that because he was a good-looking dude.
Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
Really good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cool.